Hello students of Standard 9. Welcome to the e-learning classes of DAV Moyle Public School. Subject Science. Our today's topic is why do we fall ill? And our subtopic is principles of treatment and prevention. Principles of treatment. What are the steps taken by your family when you fall sick? Have you ever thought why you fall sick? Sometimes feel better if you sleep for some time. When does the treatment involve medicines? Based on what we have learned so far, it would appear that there are two ways to treat an infectious disease. One would be to reduce the effects of the disease, and the other to kill the cause of the disease. For the first, we can provide treatment that will reduce the symptoms. The symptoms are usually because of inflammation. For example, we can take medicines that brings down fever, reduce pain, or lose motions. We can take bed rest so that we can conserve our energy. This will enable us to have more of it available to focus on healing. But this kind of symptoms direct treatment by itself will not make the infecting microbes go away, and the disease will not be cured. For that, we need to be able to kill off the microbes. How do we kill microbes? One way is to use medicines that kill microbes. We have seen earlier that microbes can be classified into different categories. They are virus, bacteria, fungi, or protozoa. Each of these group of organisms will have some essential biochemical life process which is peculiar to biochemical groups that are not shared with the other groups. These processes may be pathway for synthesis of new substances or respiration. These pathways will not be used by us either. For example, our cells may make new substances biomechanisms different from that used by bacteria. We have to find a drug that blocks the bacteria synthesis pathway without affecting our own. This is what and achieved by the antibiotics that we are all familiar with. Similarly, there are drugs that kill protozoa, such as the malaria parasite. One reason why making antiviral medicines is harder than making antibacterial medicines is that viruses have few biochemical mechanisms of their own. They enter our cells and use our machineries for their life process. This means that there are relatively few virus-specific targets to aim at depth. These limitations, there are now effective antiviral drugs. For example, the drugs that keep HIV infection under control. In this way, we can prevent ourselves from harmful bacteria or other microorganisms. Principles of prevention. All of what we have talked about so far deals with how to get rid of an infection in someone who has the disease. But there are three limitations of this approach to dealing with infectious disease. The first is that once someone has a disease, their body functions are damaged and may never recover completely. The second is that treatment will take time, which means that someone suffering from a disease is likely to be bedridden for some time, even if we can give proper treatment. The third is that the person suffering from an infectious disease can serve as a source from where the infection may spread to other peoples. This leads to the multiplication of the above difficulties. It is because of such reason that prevention of disease is better than their cure. How can we prevent disease? There are two ways, one general and one specific to each disease. The general way of preventing infection mostly related to preventing exposure. How can we prevent exposures to infectious microbes? If we look at the measures of their spread, we can get some easy answers. For airborne microbes, we can prevent exposures by providing living conditions that are not overcrowded. For waterborne microbes, we can prevent exposures by providing safe drinking water. This can be done by treatment the water to kill any microbes contaminations. For vector-borne infections, we can provide clean environment. This would not, for example, allow mosquito breedings. In other words, public hygiene is one basic key to the prevention of infectious diseases. In addition to these issues that relate to the environment, there are some other general principles to prevent infectious diseases. To appreciate these principles, let us ask a question we have not looked at so far. Normally, we are faced with infectious every day. If someone is suffering from a cold and cough in the class, it is likely that the children sitting around will be exposed to the infection, but all of them not actually suffer from the disease. Why not? This is because the immune system of our body is normally fighting off microbes. We have cells that specializes in killing infecting microbes. These cells go into action each time infecting microbes enter the body. If they are successful, do not actually come down with any disease. The immune cells managing to kill off the infection long before it assumes major proportions. As we noted earlier, if the number of the infection microbes is controlled, the manifestation of disease will be minor. In other words, becoming exposed to or infected with any infectious microbes does not necessarily mean developing noticeable diseases. So, one way of looking at several infection disease is that it represents a lack of success of the immunity system. The functioning of the immune system, like any other system in our body, will not be good if proper and sufficient nourishment and food is not available. Therefore, the second basic principle of prevention of infection disease is the availability of proper and sufficient food for everyone. These are the general ways of preventing infections that are the specific ways that relate to the peculiar properties of the immune system that usually fight off microbial infections. Let us cite an example to try and understand this property. These days, there is no smallpox anywhere in the world, but as recent as 100 years ago, smallpox epidemic were not at all uncommon. In such an epidemic, people used to be very afraid of coming near someone suffering from this disease, since they were afraid of catching the disease. However, there was one group of people who did not have this fear. These people would provide nursing care for the victim of smallpox. This was a group of people who had smallpox earlier and survived it, although with a lot of scaring. In other words, if you had smallpox, there was no chance of suffering from it again. So, having this disease one was a means of preventing subsequent attack of the same disease. Just like that, we have COVID-19, which is a major pandemic all over the world. This happens because when the immune system first is an infectious microbes, it responds against it and then remember it specifically. So the next time that particular microbes or its close relatives enter the body, the immune system responds with even greater vigor. This eliminates the infection even more quickly than the first time around. This is the basic of the principle of immunization. We can now see that a general principles we can fool the immune systems into developing a memory for a particular infection by putting something that mimics the microbe we want to vaccinate against into the body. This does not actually cause the disease, but this would prevent any subsequent exposure to the infection or infecting microbes from turning into actual disease. Many such vaccines are now available for preventing a whole range of infectious disease and provide a disease-specific means of prevention. There are vaccines against tetanus, diphtheria, whooping cough, measles, polio, and many others. This form of public health programs of childhood immunization for preventing infectious disease. Of course, such a program can be useful only if such health measures are available to all children. Can you think of reasons why this would be so? Some hepatitis virus which cause jaundice are transmitted through water. There is a vaccine for one of them, hepatitis A, in the market, but the majority of children in many parts of India are already immune to hepatitis A by the time they are 5 years old. This is because they are exposed to the virus through water. Under these circumstances, would you take the vaccine? Yes, definitely. We need to take the vaccine to prevent ourselves from different microbes. Now it's time to check your knowledge about today's topic. Here are some questions as your assignment. I hope you understand today's topic. We again meet with new video. Till then, stay at home, be safe, be happy.